Hey everyone, welcome to the Strong Mind TV. I am Nicole E, and I'm so excited that you are joining me for episode 1. And today, really honestly, I want to just spend some time and introduce you to me, myself, Nicole E, and then I want to just get a little personal with you, and share a little bit about my week. I had some interesting times. It really was last week, but we'll get to that. So me, like I said, I'm Nicole E or Nicole Ellington, and I am a worship leader, an artist. I love Jesus. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a friend. I'm a teacher. I'm a lot of things. And I like to not limit myself and allow God to use me to do whatever it is that He calls me to do. But what He has definitely called me to do, I help overwhelmed, stressed out people who are ready for change master their minds so they can minimize stress and walk out the will of God for their lives. This is what I do. This is what I've learned to do. I've studied to do. I've went to school to do. And I am excited about helping others who are ready to walk that road with me. Today, I wanted to kind of talk about how, I think I wrote it down here. I said, even when you know what to do, you still get challenged. Even when you know what to do, you still get challenged. Now, I'm going to talk a lot about mental health and how to master your mind on the Strong Mind TV, but I myself have gone through many struggles with mastering my mind, and it's an ongoing process. But even though I may have processes and tips that I use myself that work for me, even when I know what to do, I still get challenged. And so last week, I believe it was last week, I just was in a place where I had a lot of anxiety. I was filled with anxiety. And I ended up, all I needed to do was a simple task. I just needed to go to the grocery store, get the groceries that I needed to get, come home. But I was so overwhelmed and I had so much anxiety that I literally sat in the car for about an hour and a half on the street, just filled with anxiety, processing what I was going through. I was following my steps, but I still was challenged. I still was put in position to go through what I was going through. And I just want to encourage people that even when you know what you're supposed to do and you have your process and your tips and what you're going to do, and you know your 3 steps to success, you're still going to be challenged in those areas. It's still coming. And for me, there are a couple things that I learned from my experience. I learned one, that just because I know or someone knows the source of their issue, like I know what was going on with me, I know the hormone issues that I was having at that moment and why my anxiety was rising. Just because you know the source of it, or you know that it's okay that you're feeling that way, doesn't make it any easier. Okay? Let's just be honest. It doesn't make it any easier. You still are like, whoa, you still can be blindsided. You still can be sucker punched on a Tuesday at 3:30 in the afternoon. You know what I mean? Like, it still can come. It still has a strong effect on you. However, you can overcome it if you follow the steps. So, like I said, about an hour and a half, I was in the car just processing my stress. And then I finally took off. I went to Walmart. Of course, who wants to go to Walmart? There's already, no offense, Walmart, great deals. but it can be very stressful, especially depending on what neighborhood you're in, with all the people. And if you're already having anxiety, it's like, man, do you really want to go to a big old store like that? And I then spent maybe another hour in that parking lot, still processing my stress and trying to calm myself down and to not burst into tears and to not feel all the anxiety and stuff in my body. And so number one, I had learned that even though, like I said, you may know the source of the issue, you're still going to be challenged and it still can be overwhelming. The second thing that I learned from my experience last week was that if you do the work, you will get the results. Even though, like I said, I knew why I was feeling how I was feeling, it still bothered me. But I followed my steps. I pulled out my own tips, my own instructions. I followed my steps and I was fine. I literally went through a whole process every time in the car. I went through a process. Even when I got into the Walmart, guys, I still felt the anxiety build up in me again. Like I had some triggers and they were happening. They were occurring. And guess what? I did the work. I did the work right there, even in Walmart. I did the work in the car twice. And I got the results that I needed. I was able to overcome that overwhelming situation and move on and accomplish what I set out to do. It wasn't the end of the world just because I was going through what I was going through. You go through it. You go through it. And it's okay to go through it and end up on the other side. When you do the work, you will get the results. So I want to give you 2 tips that I use myself to help deal with overwhelming experiences that you might be having in your life. When you feel overwhelmed or you have anxiety or you once again you're feeling that depression trying to creep in into your day, I want to give you 2 tips to help you deal with those overwhelming situations. And then I want to give you an opportunity to hear what I do when I'm overwhelmed, my emergency overwhelmed process. All right. Like what I did there? Okay, tip number 1 is to pray and release it to God. Simple, you say? It's not always simple. But yes, pray and release it to God. Now, when I say pray and release it to God as the number 1 and first thing that you should do, this is not always something that is done in English or with words. You may have to pray and release it to God, and it may sound like a moan and then an exhale. Okay? It's okay. God interprets our moans. He understands exactly what you mean when from your gut, all you can get out is unintelligible moans that come from your soul. And then you just release it to God as a sign, God, I'm giving it to you. I'm letting it go. Now, there's a difference between and you notice the difference between those two? Yes, there's a difference between releasing frustration, which is okay, and actually exhaling in release of letting it go. Not just letting it go, but letting it go to God. Like, I'm putting it in your hands, God. I need you to take care of this. I don't know what you're going to do with it. I don't know how you're going to fix this, but I'm giving you what I'm going through right now. You are all powerful. You can deal with it. I don't want to deal with it, right? So pray and release it to God. Now, it might be a moan and an exhale, but then for you, for some others, it might be a conversation. You might need to just talk to God for a moment. Like, okay, God, for real though, what is going on in my body? What is going on in my mind? What is going on with these emotions? They're killing me right now. I need you to take it. You need to take it right now. Just be real with God. However it is that you talk to God, like, release it. Pray, talk to him about it, and then release it to him. God, nevertheless, let your will be done. You do you. Tip number 2. The second tip is what I like to call SBS. It's an acronym. It stands for stop, breathe, and say. Stop, breathe, and say. Stop, breathe, and say. SBS, stop, breathe, and say. So you stop, just everything, your mind is going, whatever, just stop. Take a deep breath. And then begin to speak to yourself and tell yourself, not just anything, you can do it. No, tell yourself what you're not gonna do. Tell yourself, I'm not about to be depressed. I'm not about to fall in a pit I can't climb out of. I'm not about to keep rehearsing everything that's wrong in my life. I'm not about to tell myself terrible things that are not true. I'm not about to do this. I'm not about to do that. I'm not about to say this. I'm not about to start this process. I'm not about, it ain't happening. No. Begin to speak to your own self and tell yourself what you're not going to do. This is what I'm not going to do. Not today. Buddy being me. But yeah, I mean, it's sometimes you got to get a little ratchet and ghetto with yourself. You're by yourself. It's okay. Do it in your mind. Do it. Well, I prefer that you speak it out loud so that you can begin to overtake your mind. When you speak, you're engaging more of your brain because you have to think, right? You have to think of what you're going to say. You have to actually say it. You're communicating. You're firing things off in your brain. So you're occupying your brain cells. And when you occupy your brain cells, that's less space for you to be anxious and be thinking about all the terrible things that you think you are and all the other things that want to, go on in your brain. So I prefer that you speak it out loud. If you got to go to a bathroom, go in your car, under your breath for a moment, but just begin to tell yourself what you're not going to do. Stop, breathe, take a deep breath, and then say exactly what's not about to happen up in here.